You know, I'd love to be a space ranger like Buzz Lightyear. Why not? What's the job application looking like? You gotta be good in space. Alright. Good in tight corners. Fine, I can do that. And be a cat person? No. No, I'm probably out. Yeah. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today I'm so excited to talk about Disney Pixar's Lightyear, a film I never thought in a million years that we would see, but here we are. A huge thank you to Disney for giving me the chance to watch this early in Dolby Cinema for review. Now, it is in theaters June 17th. That's when you guys can check it out, and if you saw my first impressions, you know that I liked the film. But did I love the movie? Well, we'll answer that in just a little bit. Now, before we get into my review and I tell you what I liked and what I didn't like too much about Lightyear, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies all the time. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, join the family, hit the thumbs up button, tap on the bell, and guys, get loud down below in the comments and let me know, just for the heck of it, which Toy Story character is your favorite. And yes, it's okay to say Buzz Lightyear. Now let's get into what this movie's all about. It's directed by Angus, MacLane, who co-directed Finding Dory, and I'll tell you why that shocked me in just a little bit. And it stars Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear, Keke Palmer, who voices Izzy, you have Peter Sohn as Socks, the adorable cat robot, and then you have Aduba, who plays Alisha Hawthorne. Now, yeah, there's a lot of discourse around this movie in terms of what this film actually is. The toy that Andy has, is it based off of this movie? Yada yada. Well, the movie does address that right in the beginning, but in case you need some more background context, let's dive into it now. Lightyear is the origin story for Buzz, our favorite space ranger, and the movie in which Andy's toy was based on. After he's marooned on a hostile planet, he begins his journey back home alongside his commander and their crew. But he's not without a new group of ambitious recruits and his charming robot companion cat, Socks. However, there's a mysterious robot leader named Zurg that Buzz and the gang must now face if they have any chance of saving their people. And honestly, after reading that aloud, I already want to rewatch this film. So guys, let's get right into the positives and start off on a high note. And we gotta talk about the cast, because even though it is a smaller cast, all things considered, they're all stellar. There really was never a dull moment with any of them, and I love the camaraderie among each of our characters on screen, whether it be Buzz and Hawthorne, Izzy and the Junior Patrol, or even the adorable Socks and Buzz duo here. So you know what, that's a good little transition into Buzz himself. Chris Evans voices this legacy character. Tim Allen, I think, would be very proud, but Chris Evans brings a little bit of his own flair and character and personality to the character of Buzz. He hit all the right notes for me as this confident leader that is also a flawed individual who's struggling to overcome his mistake of not getting to hyperspeed and helping save his people at first. But it really is his ability to work with his co-stars. There's a lot of chemistry that just bleeds through the screen, a lot of jokes that work with Chris Evans and Uzo Aduba together. They're probably my favorite duo of the entire movie, but it really is just an excellent casting for this character, and it really does work from start to finish. And speaking of Uzo Aduba, she plays Alisha Hawthorne, and you know what? You can add her as another favorite space ranger to my list. My goodness, she has some of the most emotional moments in this movie, and there's one scene in particular in the first act that nearly moved me to tears twice. I'm not afraid to say it, guys. I was wiping away some potential tears with my popcorn. It was just incredible work by Uzo Aduba. She has this warm approach to the role, and there's also a great deal of LGBTQ+ representation here with her character. Alisha is married to another woman that we do get to know a little bit, of course, and they eventually have a granddaughter named Izzy. So there is, yes, that same-sex kiss on camera that some people in the comments, of course, have been asking me about, and I'm glad that Disney Pixar decided not to veer away from this, and it really is a breath of fresh air in a movie that, of course, is keeping up with the times. But man, I loved this character. I thought both her and everyone she was around really just kind of benefited thanks to Uzo Aduba's flexibility and the way she was able to bring this motherly approach to the role. So now let's brag on Keke Palmer a little bit, because man, she is awesome as Izzy Hawthorne, Alisha's granddaughter. Keke Palmer is one of my favorite actors working in Hollywood today. She stays getting a bag, but I'm not mad at it because she has an awesome resume, and now you can add this incredible performance in a Disney Pixar film to that list. Izzy is a character that I felt I related to the most in terms of how Keke Palmer was able to convey a sense of childhood wonder whenever Buzz was around and while they were on a mission. But this character has layers as well. On the surface, she's confident and secure, but underneath, she's a little afraid of the one thing that you quite possibly cannot be afraid of if you're a space ranger. But man, I loved the storytelling that actually flows through the character of Izzy, which is basically not being afraid to be vulnerable and generous and compassionate to the others around you. It really made for a heartwarming second half of this movie. But speaking of heartwarming, guys, Peter Sohn as Socks is just incredible. Now, this is the one character that I think is going to steal the heart and souls of every single person watching this movie. I mean, I was awing, I was laughing, and I couldn't believe how effective this character was, because at first I was afraid, oh boy, Socks, the robot companion for Buzz, is going to be a gimmick. It's going to be there to sell toys, which it probably already is, but it doesn't matter because it's actually an effective tool in order for Buzz to grow as a character in this film. And like I said earlier, I'm not a cat person, but I do love Socks in this film. And hey, some of the most hilarious moments also come from Socks, beat booping all around, and man, I just loved it. And hey, I love the supporting cast here too. You have Isaiah Whitlock Jr., he's a legend of course, who voices Commander Burnside, who is the thorn in Buzz's side and vice versa. So it's an interesting tug-of-war match between the two, but you start to understand that Commander Burnside also has a little bit of room to grow. And while this next bunch took a little while to grow on me, I did enjoy the performances from Taika Waititi and Dale Soules as Mo and Darby, the rest of the Junior Patrol. They were funny together, and there are some moments that pay off in the final act of this film. Even though they didn't always work for me, I know and I recognize that they are an important part of the Junior Patrol, and yeah, I think they're going to win over some fans of this franchise. But now let's shift gears into the story and direction, because there's a wonderful sense of wonder that I felt sitting in my seat from the beginning of the movie all the way until the very last end credits scene. Speaking of that, there are 3 of them, so you're going to want to stick around for a little while after the credits roll. But man, I just couldn't believe that this film was directed by Angus MacLane, who co-directed Finding Dory, to me one of the worst Pixar films of all time. And then you have Jason Headley, who's the writer here, and he also wrote the screenplay for Onward, another movie which left me really underwhelmed and felt like it could have been so much better. But both of them combined were a force in Lightyear. I thought that they worked very well in being able to tell this story in an effective way that will make sense for kids and will make sense for adults. To me, the takeaways were this: your mistakes don't always define you, and you should never stop trying to get better each day, but also don't push people away who love you and are in your corner day in and day out. Just make sure to cherish each moment with those whom you love, because time will go by fast, and it's also about how much you spend that time with those who matter. So don't take for granted those little moments in between, you know what I mean? And that is what Jason Headley and Angus MacLane were able to convey with this movie. So kudos to them, but I also like the sci-fi exploration in this movie. Now, I said it in my first impressions, but I'll say it again here. Take the elements of a good to great Pixar movie and an element from a really good episode of Star Trek, combine them, and that's Lightyear for you. But the atmosphere wouldn't have been as immersive if not for Michael Giacchino's score. After watching Jurassic World Dominion a day before my Lightyear screening, it was a night and day difference in terms of quality. This is yet another reason why Michael Giacchino is on my personal Mount Rushmore list in terms of composers. Every time he's involved with a project, it's going to be great, but of course the Jurassic World movie is a little bit of an exception, but for the most part, Michael Giacchino just adds to the sense of exploration, and it is wonderful. And speaking of wonderful things, guys, the animation was gorgeous. Even though I didn't get a chance to see this in IMAX, I screened it in Dolby Cinema, and I was still awed by the cinematography, the framing of shots, and how getting into space felt like I escaped for nearly 2 hours. And at times, the photorealism within the animation was just incredible to see. I always, of course, knew, okay, it is animated, but in moments, my mind kind of played a trick on me and thought, oh my gosh, wait, this isn't real, is it? But man, kudos to the animators. They worked so hard, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the only or one of the only Disney Pixar movies in IMAX, and if you can get out to an IMAX theater, I would say it's probably going to help your experience. So with all that being said, guys, let's go ahead and transition now into the negatives, because even though I really enjoyed this movie, I have 2 things that hold it back from being a film I love. Let's begin with Zurg. Now, I can't dive too much into this character because of spoilers, but what I can say is that I felt the execution for the storytelling of this very important character kind of fell flat. I just don't like most of the decisions they made for Zurg. There was a jarring shift in the narrative in the third act that I had really hoped they hit and they landed here, but they went in a different direction and I don't think it worked too well. And I also felt like the more we learned about Zurg, the less interesting the character became, and also that conflict became for Buzz. I understand the message they were trying to push, but it just never really got through all the way to me, and it did feel more distracting than anything. And yes, I get it, there is more action in the second half of this movie, more specifically in the third act, but I really do appreciate more of the grounded approach to telling the story that they did in the first half with Buzz and his fellow Space Rangers. And speaking of that second half, another thing that didn't work in Lightyear was, for me, the film started to lose steam in the second act, and I noticed. It starts off firing on all cylinders with some effective humor, storytelling, and a lot of really good emotional beats. But once we get closer to, again, Zurg, the further the movie gets from being as enjoyable as the first hour. And I do think the pacing is a bit sluggish at times, especially in that third act, but it does redeem itself a little bit in the final 10-15 minutes. So listen, that's not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't make this a bad movie, but it is something to note. So after looking at the positives and the negatives, overall, you guys, Lightyear is a win. Listen, I came out of the movie so happy. I was smiling, I was reminiscing on the moments between Socks and Buzz, and I just kind of wanted to watch it again because in between all the laughter, I think there were some emotional moments that maybe I missed. I was so impressed with the direction and the writing here, and on a technical note, this is one of the more beautiful Disney Pixar films that I've seen on the big screen. But it really is brought home because of the cast. Chris Evans is just incredible here. I loved Keke Palmer, Uzo Aduba is awesome, Peter Sohn, and the rest of the supporting cast. Guys, there is just a lot to say about this cast and the crew, but the fact that they work so well and there is a very evident synergy between them, it shows in the final product. Now, is it one of the best Pixar movies of all time? I wouldn't say so, but I would say that this is a strong 4 out of 5, and it's gonna be one movie that I can tell you surprised the heck out of me. Again, I never thought we would get this film, a Buzz Lightyear origin story in which the toy was based off of. That sounds like such a stretch, but hey, it ended up working very well for me. So there you have it, y'all. That's my real review of Lightyear. Again, it's in theaters June 17th, so when you see it, let me know down below in the comments what you thought of this movie. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Or are you kind of stuck in the middle? And let me know, where does this film rank for you in the Pixar library, because I know there are a lot of films to pick and choose from, but Lightyear, it might be a strong middle tier contender. And hey, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, y'all, and hit the thumbs up button for more content just like this. We got a lot to dive into in the coming days. Umbrella Academy Season 3, got some movies that we're screening next week. It's just going to be a lot of fun in the month of June. Alrighty, y'all, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Y'all thought I was going to say into infinity and beyond. Wait, I just did. Darn it.